Hello everyone, welcome to Nexus Schoolhouse. I'm Cavalier Guest, and today we're going to be talking about a tech trick for lining up Hogger angles, but also we're going to be talking about sort of the fundamental idea that you need to have in your mind to correctly be using infinite Hogger spins. And not only just what does that mean to be using infinite Hogger spin, but the mechanics of making sure you have one, visual indicators, and some sort of hidden stuff about game mechanics. So what is an infinite spin is like step number one. That's right. Infinite spin is just this. You have two parallel surfaces, you line it up so that the E lines overlap each other, and that means that the spin is going to come right back to the same spot, and you're going to go back and forth. So this is the easiest example of that, right? This is just a back and forth spin between two surfaces. You can make this three-dimensional and make a box spin. You can also, make it a diagonal. And here's a critical point. Notice that didn't line up. It's because I was standing in the wrong spot, and then I moved, and now I'm standing in the right spot. And if I let that go, that would be infinite. The reason that I actually don't know how to line that up next to the wall right there is because that's not where I stand when I'm lining up that angle normally when I play Hogger. I actually stand inside the circle on the camp. And that is the trick you need to learn is, first thing is, where do you stand to line up Hogger spins? And frequently, just due to how good the map design is in in Heroes of the Storm, that there's often little places you can stand. So what you'll see a lot of Hogger players do is they'll walk into places like this, they'll wedge themselves up against the wall. They won't necessarily be standing in the right spot, they'll let the spin go, and then they won't actually have an infinite spin. And it's also extremely telegraphed when you walk yourself up against that wall, because the team that's looking at you is like, oh, he's trying to do the spin. And now their job is to interfere with you as much as possible, which means you have to line up that spin very, very quickly. So there are a couple of well-known tricks for lining up a spin. One of them in particular that allows you to line up a perfectly vertical spin consistently is the colon in the clock at the top of the screen is actually the exact middle pixel of the screen. So if you hold down spacebar to lock your camera on your character's down the center of the screen, you move your cursor up to the colon, that is a perfectly vertical spin. And that is one method. The problem with this, and the problem with any other method, other than the one I'm about to talk about, is you have to move to where you're going to do the spin, and then stand there, line up the spin, and that telegraphs the enemy team, oh, hey, there's going to be a spin. It gives them time to auto-attack you, it gives them time to CC you, it gives them time to interfere with your spin. Sometimes your team is good and actually pushes out in zones for you. But ideally, what would happen is you would walk to a spot and the spin would just, boom, happen. Instant. Beautiful. And there actually is a way to do that. And remember, when we're talking about these precise spots, remember that you can zoom in like this. So if you zoom in and click on a precise spot, then you're gonna walk straight to the spot. And this is sort of the tech of how this works. So what you actually end up doing is you end up clicking the right spot. That's step one. Find a spot that works, even if it involves zooming in, and then take your hand off the mouse, and you're actually going to use the camera hotkeys, which are set to the arrow keys by default. And if you set the camera up, the cursor doesn't move, so this is a perfectly vertical line. And if you set right to left, that's a perfectly horizontal line for your E. And it's just like that. And so what you do is you click the spot, you start moving with the arrow, or the camera with the arrow keys, you watch the camera. As soon as your character stops moving on the mini-map, you hit your E, and boom, it looks like an instantaneous spin with perfect lining up. And why I messed up all those spins, by the way, it's the exact same reason I messed up the spin on the camp. That's not where I stand. I actually use the compass rose. So I actually click right here. This arrow of the compass rose is actually perfectly oriented. So I don't have to walk all the way to the corner. I just do this. And it works. So there's a lot, and I say this having spent many hours in solo customs, messing around with Hogger angles on every single map in the game. There are a lot of places you can stand that will give you interesting / useful spins. Some rotational spins, some space control spins like this one. And a lot of people have found interesting spins, but they're very difficult in many cases to set up. And it's because they don't have this philosophy of don't worry about if the spin is possible, just worry about where you have to stand as long as the spin works. So in order for this to work, so this is the default control speed. The default camera arrow key movement speed is 24%. So see how slow that is? That doesn't quite work the way you would want it to. So you have to actually go to options, mouse and keyboard scroll speed 100%, and then make it nice and clear. Now, some people actually already know that trick. I know there have been some other videos made on it, but there is another aspect to this trick that only I do, as far as I know. The reason for that is I'm pretty sure most people aren't aware that you can actually assign camera hotkeys in Heroes of the Storm that will rotate the camera left and right. And it looks pretty crazy the first time people see it. So here it is, we're rotating the camera left and we're rotating the camera right. And you can't actually do this via any in-game hotkey setting. It's a feature that's left over. So you have to go to left from the StarCraft engine, essentially. So if the library documents, Heroes of the Storm accounts, your account number hotkeys, open up the hotkey file you see in Notepad, and then you'll see at the top there, camera turn left is insert, and camera turn right is set to delete. And that's how I'm turning the camera. So I'm literally taking my hand off. And one thing to notice is the cursor moves when you change the camera. So you actually have to change the camera before you click on whatever position it is you find that works for your diagonal spin. And I want to make a note, the camera moved as I got to the corner of the map there. That happens because you run into the corner of the map with a box that's, offset from the corner. This will never happen on a vertical or horizontal version of the spin, but it will happen every time on a diagonal spin. So you have to make sure you're releasing the E before you get to the corner of the map, or it will move the camera, which will in turn move the cursor, and you will not get a perfectly diagonal spin. By the way, I don't use this diagonal spin. This is not the most efficient way to do this camp. This is just a diagonal spin that I know exists on the map. And again, there are several potential diagonal spins that can be found. I found a few. There's actually a channel in the Nexus Schoolhouse Discord server called Hogger Angles that, since Hogger has been released, has been dedicated to sort of finding these angles, and I'm rededicating it to the community. If you find a cool angle, if you find a spot to stand that gives a cool spin, go in, post it in there. Eventually I'll do a video where instead of explaining the tech, I just sort of insert a bunch of, here's where you stand, here's the resulting spin, here's the situations where you may end up using it. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time. Have a good night, everyone.